Your Steve Jones Show podcast will start shortly. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Brewers Outlet, your beverage supermarket on Reagan Street in Sunbury. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And today's show brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. And you know what? Time to go stock up for the 4th of July weekend. 4-day weekend. Now, we'll be on the air Monday at our new time, 1 to 3, as a matter of fact. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. And the pickle bar, led by the barrels and the dills, indeed second to none. You need to stock up now. Just put it on 1070 in the car, drive on over, and start hauling out what you need. We're in the Sunbury Motors Studio, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, online at sunburymotors.com. This is Bobby Bonilla Eve. Tomorrow will be Happy Bobby Bonilla Day, July 1st. The Mets will once again pay him $1.19 million.
Get the lingerie on the deck. Call the janitor.
It's true. He's going to get $1.19 million from the Mets again. And I think that deal still has 9 years to run on it. What a life. Time now for, we don't have any, like another Yankee didn't cheat and throw a perfect game, did he?
No, at least not that I saw.
We should watch the tape of it. It's all sorts of weird stuff going on in that game. It was like watching Gaylord Perry. Oh, no, I'm sorry. All right. Our play-by-play call of the day.
And Francisco Rodriguez. Little squibber up the first base line. That's a fair ball. Underhanded by JT. What a play.
JT Realmuto with the play. The Phillies have now won 9 in a row on the road. You can have success on the road when they allow you to go.
Oh, my almighty.
They do go to St. Louis for the weekend.
I mean, you make it seem like it's a big deal they're going to St. Louis. Everybody's been going to St. Louis. Like the Yankees, like playing everybody at home. Like, I mean, it's like, oh, we're going to go on a trip. Hey, yeah, it's great. Well, it's like, guess what? It's not like looking at the kids and saying we're going to go on a trip. You got to look at the guys and go, hey, look, it's part of the business. We got to go play some road games.
But they do start the second half of the season in Colorado after the All-Star break. So at least there's that. Yeah, they come home after this trip in St. Louis.
Of course they do. Oh, my goodness. Of course they do.
For the O's and the Cubs. But then they start off the second half of the season on the road in Colorado.
Oh. Yeah, they probably then are home for a 12-game series after that. Come on. You guys are amazing. The sequencing of games benefiting one team so much. It's unreal. All right. Phillies have won 9 in a row on the road. How about that? That is so impressive. Yeah, I know the Braves have been playing great. Have the Yankees played the Braves yet?
No.
No, of course not. You'll be 0 for 6 in those games. All right.
Wouldn't be shocked.
I forgot you guys had a 2-game road trip to play the Mets. Like, everybody can just take their own car. We're good. Ay. All right. So we've talked about the NIL part of it. Well, when I talk to groups about NIL, and the fact that they did this ranking and about the most ambitious NILs, and And James is absolutely right. Penn State, remember, I'll take everybody back to 1983. Penn State won the national championship. And Joe Paterno addressed the Board of Trustees. And so Penn State wins the national title. Penn State's number one. And Joe looked at the Board of Trustees and said, I want Penn State to be number one in everything we do. That was his quote. I want Penn State to be number one in everything we do. And in talking with James today, as we were talking about this, he says, "Look, we need to be we need to be in the top 10 in everything." Okay? Now, maybe you're fourth, maybe you're fifth, maybe you're one, but whatever. But you've got 12 teams that are going to be making this playoff in a year. You need to be in the top 10 in everything to put yourself in a position to be in that top 10. Then after that, the games will take care of themselves. But you need to be in the top 10 in NIL. You need to be in the top 10 with your weight room, and they've done that. You need to be the top 10 in your locker room. They've done that. You need to be in the top 10 with your practice facilities. You need to be in the top 10 with your stadium. You need to be in the top 10 in your game day atmosphere. You need to be in the top 10 with your recruiting, which then goes hand in hand these days, again, back to number one, being in the top 10 in NIL. You need it. Now, there are a lot of fans that I understand are justifiably uncomfortable with it because that is not what they're used to. It's not the model of what they're used to. But in 1977, when they formed the Nittany Lion Club, okay, and people were asked to donate money to then have the ability to buy their seats, people weren't comfortable with that then either. But then they quickly realized it was the best way to keep the entire athletic department going and to benefit the football program. So they did it. And now it's commonplace. It's the same with this. Yeah, it's not the model you're used to. I understand that. Believe me, I have been face to face with fans for 2 months. Yeah, I've gone to Lancaster. I've gone to Hilton Head, South Carolina. I've gone to Indianapolis. I've gone to Scranton. I've gone to Hazleton. I've gone to Johnstown. I went over to Elysburg. I mean, this is what I've been doing the last 2 months. Is I've been going around to all these places. So I've been taking questions from everybody. And NIL comes up all the time and justifiably. Sometimes I just volunteer it. And sometimes I'm just asked about it right out of the gate. I said, you have two choices with NIL. You either adapt or lose. And back in the 70s, when they needed to get funding really going beyond the Levi Lamb Fund with the Nittany Lion Club and so forth, with seat selection and things like that, and putting in money for parking and the like, people weren't comfortable with that then, but decided it was the best thing to do. Now, I realize that we need parameters on this. That I do realize. They need to have this structure, but until it's structured, you got to go by what the rules are in this particular day. And this is where they need help with this. They've made up ground, but they aren't there yet. And James is exactly right. Okay? He's exactly right. And I agree with him completely. Right? Said, gotta be top 10 in everything. That was his exact quote to me. Gotta be top 10 in everything. Well, he's right. And that's why they've invested in Lash Building and in the weight room. That's why they've invested with the practice fields. That's why they've invested in nutrition and nutrition bars. That's why they've invested in wellness. That's why they've invested in the training room. That's why they've invested in sports performance. That's why they're investing in the stadium. Because they know they need to be top 10 in everything. Not just one thing, but everything. And that includes NIL. That includes NIL. And I can't emphasize that enough. And I know it is a concept that a lot of college football fans have been hesitant about. Because that hasn't been the model. But there's a reality. It is the model. And to me, it becomes very difficult where I'm going to stick by my standards. I feel like I'm quoting Matt here. I'm going to stick by my standards.
Oh, my almighty!
And then the team goes 4-8, and you're like, "Oh, I want the coach fired." Like, well, excuse me. Like, we asked you to help. You didn't help. This is what happens when people don't help. There's certain things where it's a given where Penn State's in the top 10. You know, top 10 atmosphere in the country, top 10 fan base, the whole thing. I mean, it already happen to be. I think the weight room is. I think the athletic training area is. I think the sports performance is. I mean, there's a long list where they're already in the top 10, but they got to be. You still have to be top 10 in NIL. It comes up in recruiting all the time. It comes up in recruiting all the time. So it's just it's a point I've made everywhere I've gone to speak. It comes up all the time. And it takes up, I'd say, a third of the conversation with groups. And and you name the question, I take any question. Fine with me. I don't worry about that. And it does come up. And people do come up with their reservations about it because they're not comfortable with it yet. And I always point out, I said, here are your choices. Adapt or lose. And James is right. Penn State needs to be top 10 in everything. Just like Joe Paterno told the Board of Trustees in the spring of 1983. I want Penn State to be number one in everything we do. Well, in this case with the football program, you got to be top 10 in terms of your academic graduation rate. You got to be top, and all those things. And this is a head football coach that preaches academics over and over again. That's the other part I bring up all the time when I'm talking NIL with everybody. I said, James Franklin understands what is needed in this era. I said, but does not in any way, shape, or form ever put academics, which is important to all of you, and it's important to him, it doesn't take a back seat. I said, the number of times during the course of a week that I hear him talk about academics, right? I hear him talk to it all the time. Practice is over. Talk about academics, class attendance, grades, sitting in the front row, being early. And he'll send out members of the staff to buildings. I know I'll walk into class on a Monday morning, and I know there's some football players in the building, not in my class, but in the building. And I'll see staff members, and they're there to check off. Yep. That's how serious the head football coach is about the academic mission. It is not all just going out and we've got to win on Saturday. He is all in on the entire experience. And part of that entire experience is winning on Saturday. And part of that entire experience is recruiting, and that's why he wants to be top 10 in everything, and that includes NIL. Adapt or lose. And if that's all he ever talked about, I could see some argument from some fans, but that's not all he talks about. Yeah? He's all about the academic side. He's all about making sure you're in class. He's all about you sit in the front row. He's all about, hey, look, you get the grades. Hey, you get your degree. Try and get that degree in 2.5, 3 years if you can. He's all about that. So he is serious when it comes to the full experience. I mean, serious about the full experience. And that's what makes it easier for me to talk about how important being in the top 10 of NIL happens to be, because he's a head football coach that has the same values that Joe does or did about the great experiment. Because I hear him talk about the academic side to his players so often during the season. And he's sending people out to make sure they're in class. Who's doing that? That's why when he tells me, he says, hey, Steve, we got to be in the top 10 in NIL. Hey, I'll go to the wall for him on that, because guess what? He's trying to be top 10 in everything, including the academic side. All right, we'll take a break. Come back, more in a moment as we continue here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
There's something to be said about a sale with a handshake, a service technician who really knows what he's doing. They can explain it in English what the problem is. There's nothing better than having that friend you could trust in the area. That's Sunbury Motors, where you get selection, knowledgeable salespeople, and prices that fit your budget, and more important, that friend you can trust. Welcome to Sunbury Motors, Kia, Ford, and Hyundai. You could shop other dealers and compare prices, but at Sunbury Motors, you get their lowest price promise. They research the current used vehicle market and guarantee their used car prices are the lowest. If you find a lower price, Sunbury Motors will beat it. 3 dealers all in one. See their full new and pre-owned inventory at sunburymotors.com. Pick out a vehicle you like and schedule your test drive online. Follow them on Facebook. Sunbury Motors Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
This is a day I know you would have loved to have been at ESPN. You like firing people.
In this case, no. That's because I've been in their spot.
You call for people. You call for people to lose their jobs all the time. Yeah, I'll fire him. You gotta get rid of Brian Cashman.
Not broadcasters, most of them.
Do you want the list?
Most of them.
Well, it's a rough day there. It is a rough day. And here it is, the end of the fiscal year. I assume Disney's fiscal year ends on the 30th. Not everybody's does. But usually the 30th is the end of the fiscal year. It's hard. It's just hard. You know, Susie Colbert was there for 37, 38 years. Wow. And yeah, I mean, there are, Keyshawn Johnson, Max Kellerman. I mean, like, again, not all these people are beloved, but they had a following. And it's just not easy. I mean, Todd McShay, when it comes to the NFL draft, McShay was on more than Mel Kiper. He's out. It is, it's rough. It really is. But the business has been rough over the years. There's no getting around it. The business has not done a good job of keeping up with the times or the audience. It really hasn't. That's why, like, we see, for example, Mark retiring today, Mark Lawrence. But Mark was in tune with his audience. And you have to have, there's the business, and that talk, last night I was in Johnstown. That was the latest stop on the tour, and somebody who had been, that I had worked with at Channel 6 for a period of time many years ago, was there last night, and the subjects of the business came up. And he said, there aren't many stations doing a lot of sports anymore. I said, I know. I said, they're either cutting down the minutes of sports on the air or they're cutting it out completely. That's been a national trend. I said, there's too many managements that are very, very short-sighted. In order to be successful in any business, you have to have the ability to look at the big picture. And you have to have the ability to have some foresight as to what is going on with the industry and what works for your audience. You can't just sit there and have somebody tell you all the time, I want to see the numbers by the end of the quarter. Oh, and everybody panics because the numbers at the end of the quarter. Just slow down. You have to know when you're doing it right. And then be patient with it. And patience is not easy. But you have to have that kind of big picture feel for what's going on. And you can't be just doing everything on a short-sighted balance sheet.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Today's show brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. Pickle bar led by the barrels and the dills, indeed second to none. Bob in Hanover has been holding on, sir. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Just a couple of questions about NIL. I'm not crazy about it, but I sort of understand why schools have to compete each other for that. Here's where I'm a little confused, though, is the university or the athletic department's not supposed to be involved in it. Is that correct?
Yes, they're not supposed to actually be directly involved in it. They can have some help along the way. Like, for example, there's an event in Avalon. The players are going to be there, and James is going to be there, and that'll be on July 27th. But they can't go out and say, Bob, give me money. Can't do that.
But they do send out. I've gotten emails from the athletic director, and I think James Franklin maybe earlier, about asking us to consider getting involved with name, image, and likeness. Are they supposed to promote it? I mean,
yes,
are they allowed to do that?
Yeah, absolutely, they're allowed to promote it. Yep. That's the part where they liberalized that rule about a year and a half ago on that.
Oh. Yeah, I never hear any of the rules on NIL, so I don't know what's going on there. And what do they expect from
you're not sending it. But you're not sending the money to Penn State. You're sending the money to the collective. That's the difference.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I got you. This is a sort of an odd question. I know Calvin Booth was an advisor to one of the previous collectives. I think it was Success with Honor. But he lets his son go to another school. That sort of surprised me. I mean, does that mean that Calvin isn't doing a good enough job to get people to send enough money to keep his son to go to Penn State, or doesn't that have anything to do with it?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with it, even though it's an interesting question, and it is an interesting question. But, when I talked with Calvin about his son, and this is when he was still committed to Penn State, so it was like the end of February, beginning of March was the last time I talked to Calvin face-to-face. He said the entire process has been about his son, Kerry, making up his own mind.
And it should be.
And going where he wanted to go along the way and playing for whomever he wanted to play. And, and Calvin's married, and Calvin's wife played a role, too, as to what's going on. And so in the end, the young man was allowed to make his own decision. It turned out it's not what Penn State fans had hoped for, because I think he would have been a really, really good player here. But at the same time, I always respect when a young person makes up their own mind about something.
I mean, did anything have to do with the fact that he wasn't getting enough money through name, image, and likeness through Penn State that he decided to move on, or don't you know?
No, it had to do with the fact that he had really bonded with Micah Shrewsbury over a period of time. And when Micah got the Notre Dame job, you notice where he ended up.
Yeah, I understand.
And so that really is what it comes down to. In fact, all the recruits ended up going to Notre Dame, all three of them. And it was not a name, image, and likeness issue. It was more of they were recruited by that coach and wanted to play for that coach.
So when Shrewsbury was quoted in some articles earlier saying that we were like last in the Big Ten in name, image, and likeness, that had nothing to do. So apparently those kids didn't care about name, image, and likeness at that time. They just wanted to play for Penn State, and now it's changed.
I mean, they cared some about it, but it's but you're talking when Micah was talking about recruiting classes, he wasn't talking about the one that already signed. He was talking about the future recruiting classes and where Penn State stood. They already had that class signed. Name, image, and likeness had been improving, but not to the point he felt that it needed Penn State to be competitive to be in the NCAA tournament year in and year out. Now we're starting to see an improvement there because in the end that's going to make a difference. Until they get parameters on the rules, Bob, until they get those parameters, it's the Wild West. And so when you're talking about name, image, and likeness with the three players, now one of them's Braden. So Braden is not going to stay here. He's going to go play with his dad, right? Okay. And the kid from Indianapolis is staying home. Okay, so he's from Indianapolis going up to South Bend. So there's a lot of reasons for everything here, and it's not just that was not just an NIL situation. Going forward, though, NIL is going to be critical for both football and basketball. There's just no getting around it.
And it seems like I'm a season ticket holder, longtime Nittany Lion Club member, and I never get information about what do they expect from me to become one of the top 10 schools in NIL? What do they expect? What do they want from us?
I think you have to get in touch with the collective and find out what the collective's goals happen to be.
Shouldn't that be their job?
The collective?
To go out and talk to people that are potential donors and let them know what they're looking at and what they would like us to do.
Again, that's a rules question, and that one I'm not quite sure about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As to how much they can do and how much they can't do. And that gets into, for me, the gray area as to how I answer it, because I'm not quite sure how to answer it. Now, the easiest thing is to know that Happy Valley United, I think that's what it's called now, is the collective. And if you get in touch with them, they'll tell you exactly what they expect.
Well, one of the problems I had with the previous collective is I sent them 2 emails and asked them could they tell me what percentage of the money that comes in goes to the players and what goes to administration. I never got responses back from anybody. They don't talk about that. I mean, if they're a nonprofit, which I assume that they're registered as, shouldn't they be a little more open with saying that we have 10% of our stuff's going to administration and 90% of what you donate is going to get returned to the players?
Right. I think they're a 501(c)(3). So, you know what? When I go, they asked me to be a part of the Avalon on July 27th. get together, and I will pull somebody aside and I'll ask them some of these questions.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that. I think they need to be a little more open about what they're collecting, how many people they got involved in collecting this money. Are they really shooting for the average season ticket holder, or do they really want local businesses or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania businesses to participate in this? Like, if I give $100, am I going to get an athlete that will come to my house for a picnic and sign autographs? I was being facetious there, but...
Well, that goes back to James. I want to go to birthday parties. I'm like, oh, that's... And when he said it that day, I said, you know what that means? It means I'm going to be going in your place.
Yeah, the whole thing, and I think you're right, until there's rules in place, it's like the whole thing's like an unknown slippery slope, and I don't think anybody really knows what's going on, well, at least that I'm aware of.
I mean, Pat Kraft has been exponentially more aggressive with it. James has always been aggressive with it. But there's also certain rules that they have to follow to make sure they're within the parameters of it. And so they can be aggressive to a point. The collective is the one that needs to be aggressive above all. And it's up to them to, as James wants to get the word out, like, hey, look at our collective, make a donation, get involved, help us out. That's where he's appealing to people. And that's, when he and I, talked about this today, he said, look, he says, this list came out. Penn State's not in that top 10. He's right.
Who made the list?
Who made the list?
Yeah.
Let's see. Who made the list? That's a good
question.
No,
not what teams. I meant who made up the list. Who?
It was on 3.com.
Oh, okay. So they went in and looked at the books of all the NIL collectives and have determined that.
How they went about it, I do not know. But he's right. They need to be top 10 in stadium, top 10 in facility, top 10 in weight room, top 10 in nutrition, top 10 in academics, top 10 in NIL. They need to be top 10 in everything, and he's right about that.
Yep, I understand that, and I think our program has always strived to be in the top. I don't know if they ever said top 10, but ever since I've donated, they've improved locker rooms, they've improved weightlifting, they improved nutrition, they improved housing for the athletes, because when I was there, the athletes lived in the dorms just like we did.
Yeah, right. And there's certain elements with that have to be corrected as well.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, I'm going to take a break.
Okay, that's no problem. Just ask the athletic director if he can sort of just inform us what's going on, what they're gearing towards, and we're like in the cold, just thinking. Okay,
I will absolutely do that for you, no question.
Okay.
Because I'll see Pat over the next few weeks. We'll talk.
All right. Thank you very much.
If we don't talk, I'll text him and then he'll call me. So okay. Appreciate it, Bob. All right, King in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Sixers, by the way, are not going to extend Tyrese Maxey this summer.
I did see that. It makes sense from a financial standpoint.
He's heading into the final year of his rookie deal.
Yeah.
Even they think he's very good and not great.
King.
What up, guys? That was a good phone call.
Yeah, no, Bob had great questions.
Yeah, that was a really good call. Interesting. So, cool. I'm in Narragansett Bay, Rhode Island.
Yeah, you're on the beach, right?
Well, I'm not quite. I'm 8 minutes from the beach. Okay. I can see the ocean from here.
There you go.
Oh, at least you're not in the bay.
I walked 9,000 steps today.
Wow, good for you, man.
Yeah. I got one of those stupid watches now. So.
Nice.
It's awesome. I love it here. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. So we're going to the beach tonight. Me and my wife are going to walk the beach.
Nice.
I take my shirt off, and twerk. So.
All right, on that note, what do you got?
Then we come home.
We'll leave it at that.
Doesn't go over well. Maybe the dogs get excited, but that's about it. Well, fight them.
All right, well, what do you got to start?
I got one. Will the owner of the Mets sell the entire team, all the players, trade all the players to get new ones? Did you read about him?
Oh, yeah. No, I have, as a matter of fact.
Well, yeah, he is furious. He's got a $350 million payroll, and there's 7 games under 500. And he said, if they don't start producing, I'm canning all of them. I'm trading all of them to get new players. That cracked me up. I was like, all right, there you go. That's the owner saying it, not the general manager or the manager. He said, I'm keeping my general manager, I'm keeping Buck Showalter, and I'm getting rid of the players.
Well, they're the ones performing.
Yeah, very poorly.
Or the lack
thereof. It's about time an owner stood up and said, you know what, that's enough. You know, you wanted a big contract, I gave you the big contract, now you got to hit the ball, you know. It's like Devers for the Red Sox. He's the fourth best player on his own team, never mind the league. And he signed a $30+ million a year contract. So,
for 11 years.
I would, yeah. The first year you suck. You got problems. So we'll see.
No, I mean, and you know, everybody knows how I feel about that. I think these long contracts they sign are just ridiculous. You're telling me at the age of 40, 41, Aaron Judge doesn't play at 31, let alone 41.
Yeah. If you're not producing now, what are you going to do 10 years, 11 years from now? Nothing?
Yep.
I mean, they've gone too far with it. And I think complacency sets in, you know, that I'm set for life. What do I get? Win or lose, I get a paycheck. So
that's right.
Go out and earn it, you know?
That's right.
So.
There you go. Steve, what do you got?
What do I have? Let's see. Hey. James Harden opts in. Sixers say darn.
That's actually a good one. I say darn.
Darn it! I was hoping he'd opt out. Darn.
Not Daryl Morey, though. Jeez. The love fest between the two of them. Kind of a nauseating one. All right, my one is Vince Scully has a repeat in heaven. The impossible has happened after we saw Domingo Germán throw a perfect game.
Oh.
The impossible has happened, too.
This guy had like a 6 ERA over his last 3 games. He throws a perfect game. Yeah. Can't make it up.
And Giancarlo Stanton hit a home run that game.
My follow-up headline is to that. After an extensive investigation, Major League Baseball takes away perfect game because it was the A's.
Oh, yeah, the A's are very... The A's started playing pretty good, though, didn't they?
They did for a short time.
Yeah, they got 20. They're up to 21 wins now. They're on a roll.
Yeah. Make another movie about them. So, my next one is, will any team in the American League Central end the year over 500?
It's a valid question right now.
That is very strange. I mean, the Red Sox are in last place in the East. They'd be in first place in the Central. So, how can that happen? I don't know.
Balanced schedule.
You think so?
Yeah, it's the balanced schedule because you're not playing 19 games against teams in your division, which means the team at the top can't beat up on somebody in the bottom 19 times. And then the American League East, they'd all be beating up on each other and the records would fall back. You're not playing that schedule anymore. It's now balanced, and I think that's created an imbalance in the wins and losses of divisions.
There you go. There you go. It's just bizarre to see how poor they are, you know. And they could actually, you know, make the playoffs and go to the World Series if they get lucky. and play 500 ball all year. So.
Well, my next one's a personal one. Tomorrow is mine and Lisa's 6-year anniversary, so happy anniversary to my lovely wife, Lisa.
Congratulations. It's also tomorrow the anniversary. It's also tomorrow the anniversary of Bobby Bonilla getting $1.19 million again.
I know.
On Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. I'm going to say this. It's not Bobby Bonilla. Whomever his agent was and is a hero. That guy's great.
I'm honored that my anniversary is shared with this day, let me tell you. Because that is impressive.
And it's going to go through 2032.
There you go.
Got 9 more paychecks of $1.19 million coming to him.
If you want to give some of that to me for an anniversary gift, I wouldn't hate that.
Hey, Matt, you and I got married same year.
Oh, really? All right. There you go.
Yeah, because we just celebrated our 6th in May. So,
sweet. All right. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
And see, I knew there was something. There was something clicking there. So, yeah.
There you go. The
Cool.
Yankees, and we're married the same year. There we go. I like it.
Yep. We'll have a party. So.
All right, the segment's getting strange. I thought the Bobby Bonilla thing was really good. After that, I kind of felt like we went downhill.
How many years you got, Steve?
Oh.
I'll be 44.
Wow.
44 years. Oh, my God. Does that make me feel old? I remember when you guys were in high school together.
Yeah.
How cool was that? That was like a long time.
I didn't know you guys were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know. I never knew that. You and Kathy. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it your senior year or junior and senior year?
Senior year.
Yeah. It was love at first sight.
How about that?
Oh yeah. They'd be making out in the car.
All right, now we're getting weird.
I'd be out in the front singing, close to you.
We'll never forget this final segment of our 3 to 5 time slot.
So I'll leave with one more headline. Yankees head home after trip to St. Louis again. Never play any
pretty
road
much.
games. Yankees exhausted after 2-game trip. Hey, 1-3
Red
on
Sox
Monday. 1-3 starting Monday.
Looking forward to it.
Go stock up at Brewers Outlet for Matt's anniversary.
There you
or
go.
the 4th of July, whichever really applies to your family.
There you go.
Get the pretzels. Yeah. Get the nuts.
Oh yeah.